Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to take a look at some potentially undervalued players in Sorare. These are relatively cheap cards for managers on a budget wanting to make a competitive impact in SO5. I've picked out a few options in each position and we're going to have a quick breakdown of why they might be underpriced and why you should maybe consider them for your club. If you like this kind of content, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and if you haven't seen my first video where I break down my first month on the game and give an overview of my strategy and my gallery, I'll leave a link for you in the description below. And quick disclaimer before we start, I do not own any of the cards I'm about to talk about. These are simply players I've identified after doing a bit of research. I want to help you guys perhaps make an informed decision on these cards and maybe just consider why they are potentially undervalued. So let's start off at the top of the pitch with a forward card playing in La Liga, Oscar Trejo of Rayo Vallecano. His limited card currently sells around 0.16 or about $60, which is very reasonable for the forward position. He's actually just assisted against Alaves as I'm making this video, so he's gone up from 0.013. If we take a look at his average position, he's actually more of an attacking midfielder and playmaker on the field for Real. He's taking set pieces and penalties for the side that currently sits 6th in La Liga. So why is he undervalued? Let's look at some stats. So his L15 is a good place to start, and that's sitting at 61.5, which is a nice indicator to start with. What I like to do when I'm assessing a player is look at their average all-round score and use that as a solid metric to see how they might perform if they don't hit a decisive. His AA15 or average all-round score for the last 15 games is 12.6, which is really decent for a forward. In fact, when you compare that average with other forwards in Champion Europe, he's averaging higher all-rounds than players like Salah, Mbappe and Lewandowski. Now those guys rack up decisive scores, so let's have a look at his numbers this season. He's currently sitting on 3 goals and now 8 assists, so 11 goal contributions in 16 matches played. All 3 of those goals have been penalties, I believe, and he's actually performing well above his expected goal contributions. So all pretty promising so far. Let's head over to SofaScore and check out how some of those numbers look there. So his average score for this season on SofaScore is 7.15, which is really quite respectable. And in fact, if you compare that to the rest of his team, he's the top rated player in the entire squad for his average rating in La Liga. If we have a look at his match stats, he's played 16, 15 of which were starts, and he's been in the team of the week 3 times. Now his average minutes per game are 66, which suggests he's frequently subbed off in the second half of games. So if we cross-reference that with Transfermarkt, we can definitely see that yes, he almost never plays the full 90 minutes of a game. That's most likely an age and fitness thing, but you can also see he's been captain of the team the last few games, and he missed that Valencia game due to a yellow card suspension. It's always nice to know a player is a captain or vice captain of their team because they likely get to play most games. It's just a nice security blanket to have. So all good so far, we know exactly what we're getting with Trejo here, but if we move on, let's have a final check of some underlying stats to see if we can spot anything else interesting there. From his scouting report on FBref, we can see his assists per 90 is sitting at 0.65, which places him in the 99th percentile from other attacking midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues. His expected assists per 90 is 0.28, which means he's overperforming in his assists so far this season, but even if he weren't, that's still a respectable number. His key passes are 2.42 per 90. His shot creating actions per 90 are 4.38, which reflect his playmaker prowess, but even more impressive are his goal creating actions, which are 0.75 per 90, which places him in the 91st percentile. Also in the 91st percentile are his tackles won, 1.4 per 90, and his pressure statistics are solid with 24.22 per 90, which places him in the 97th percentile of attacking mids. So if you don't mind having a slightly older creative forward who doesn't usually play a full 90 minutes, I think Trejo is a very solid option for his price compared to his SO5 output. Now let's head to the midfield and have a look at a potentially undervalued option in Valentine Roger from Marseille. His limited card is currently around 0.021 or just over $80 or 70 euros. Another very reasonable price. He's a versatile midfielder who sometimes fills in at right back, which helps his SO5 scores with a fair bit of possession and good tackling stats. That's really reflected in his AA scores too. His L15 is only 52.4, which could be down to a lack of decisive scores as he plays further back on the pitch. But if we sort by the average all-round score in Champion Europe for the last 15 games, you'll see he's ranked 5th, just behind Casemiro and Brozovic, and actually ahead of deep-lying playmakers like Dani Parejo and Luka Modric, with an average of 22.4. So really impressive all-round scores for the price there, and in the games where he does hit a decisive, he's pretty much guaranteed to hit a big score. If we take a deeper look at his underlying stats, you'll see perhaps why his AA scores are so high. Take note that his XG in Ligue 1 this season is actually 1.4 and he's yet to score, so there's a potential decisive in him somewhere. And if we scroll down, we'll see straight away that his passing statistics are quite superb. The number of passes, variety of passes, and his pass completion are really quite high in most departments, including passes into the final third. But it's his tackling stats where he blows most midfielders out of the water. Look at this, almost every tackling stat is in the 99th or 98th percentile when compared with other midfielders in Europe Europe's top 5 leagues. This guy wins a ton of tackles, and if we just look a little bit further down, his carries and progressive carries are equally impressive, in the high 90th percentiles for most tracked actions there. So between his passing, tackling and possession stats, you'll see why he's up there with some of Europe's best midfielders when it comes to all-round average scores on SO5. On top of that, he's averaging a 7.15 score on SofaScore this season, which ranks him as Marseille's third best player. And if we head back to Sorare data, the price of even his rare is reasonable at 0.122, much cheaper than players of his profile. But if you're on a budget and just wanting to pick up an undervalued midfield player at $80, perhaps consider Roger for your gallery. Moving to defense and staying in Ligue 1, my next player is Strasbourg defender Alexander Jiku. Centre-back and captain of his team, Jiku's limited card is going for an average of 0.02 on the Sorare market, just under $80 or €70, so again he isn't going to break the bank. What he will do though is put up consistently strong SO5 scores. His L15 is 57 and his AA15 is 23, which is actually higher than big scoring defenders like Marquinhos and Bastoni. He almost always plays 90 minutes, and Strasbourg are currently sitting 7th place in Ligue 1, above the likes of Monaco, Lille and Lyon. He's kept 4 clean sheets in 16 games he's played this season, so a 1 in 4 ratio and a respectable average of 6.89 on SofaScore. If you take a look at his underlying stats, you won't find too many outstanding statistics when compared with other centre-backs, but I would note that his interceptions per 90 are 3.17, which places him in the 99th percentile across Europe, and that's definitely impressive. Given the fact each interception is worth 3 SO5 points, that's an average of 9.5 points per game from interceptions alone. He's also dominant in his aerial duels, winning 70% of them and averaging less than 1 aerial lost per game. So those high AA scores could well be down to his high duels won and interception numbers. At 0.02, this card is well worth consideration as an undervalued SO5 card, and if you've got a gap in defense and are looking for a cheaper option, Jiku might be your guy. Finally, the words cheap and goalkeeper don't really coexist in Sorare, so for this selection I'm simply picking a goalkeeper who plays every game and doesn't break the bank relative to other keepers. Emiliano Viviano, who now plays for Fatih Karagümrük in the Turkish league. He's a reliable SO5 player, and for the price it's hard to find a cheaper alternative who'll be playing over the winter break period. He keeps a clean sheet every 4 games and has an L15 of 50. His save percentage is 70.7% and he's a steady presence in net. And like I said, you want a dependable option in the goalkeeper position, and for the price of 0.04, about $150 or €140, you'll struggle to find a better option. So that's 4 undervalued cards on Sorare, one in each position that you might want to add to your watch list, or pick up as an underpriced SO5 option for your gallery. Now for a 5th and final option, I'm going to briefly mention 3 slightly more premium players that fit a similar profile to the cards we've just discussed, and are also potentially undervalued, albeit a little more expensive. In the midfield we've got Rodrigo de Paul from Atletico Madrid. He scored 9 goals and 10 assists for Udinese last season, and he hasn't really replicated that form for Atletico yet. But his SO5 scores remain relatively strong. He's going for 0.037 with an L15 of 53.5 and AA15 of 18.1. He's been rotating in and out of the Atletico starting lineup, but always gets minutes. His average on SofaScore this season is 7.09. His key underlying stats to look out for are 3.34 shot creating actions per 90, 0.31 goal creating actions per 90, and he has 3.65 fouls drawn per 90, which are the 99th percentile in La Liga this season and in Europe's top 5 leagues over the calendar year. If he starts to rack up a few more decisives this season, I'd expect his price to really move upwards. One to watch for sure. In defense, we have Ibanez from Roma, a regular starter in defense with U23 utility. He's valued at 0.03 with an L15 of 54 and AA15 of 17.9. He's hit 2 perfect 100 scores in the last 12 game weeks. He's also scored 3 goals this season already with an average of 7.11 on SofaScore. His key underlying stats are 2.61 interceptions per 90, 2.42 tackles per 90, and 3.5 passes into the final third per 90. Given his age, relatively low price, decisive potential, and all-round averages, this card is definitely worth consideration if you have the budget. And the last player I'm going to mention is Udinese's Gerard Deulofeu. 0.34, L15 of 55, and AA15 of 12.8. He's actually just scored 2 goals against Cagliari as I'm making this video, so there might be some hype around him, but for his price he's definitely worth a look. Playing in attack and on the wing, he's on corners and free kicks of his side with 4.3 shot creating actions per 90. His progressive carries are 9.42, which ranks him in the 99th percentile of Europe's top 5 leagues. His carries into the penalty area also rank in that percentile at 2.84, and he plays 2.46 key passes per 90, which places him in the 98th percentile. So there are 3 slightly more premium options for each outfield position in SO5. If you have have any other suggestions for potentially underpriced Sorare cards, leave them in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out my first video where I break down my own cards, and I'll be back soon with an update on my overall gallery and a roundup of the last few game weeks. Until then, good luck with your own Sorare journeys, and I'll see you next time.